Hello and welcome to this Mobalytics video. I'm your host Virakayu, and in this one we are going to be taking a look at 15 champions that are always strong to climb solo queue in Season 10. The operative word there being always strong. That means they are not meta dependent, they make good champions to main, maybe simply as pocket picks or things you can fall back to if you're filled or for your secondary position, but ultimately they are sort of meta agnostic or meta transcendent. It doesn't necessarily matter what's happening in the game at large, they will always find a way to do well. And obviously that's very important in solo queue because nothing is worse than playing a champion that is constantly nerfed, fixed, adjusted, and then your power curve and your ability to win games changes from patch to patch. So to begin, let's start with SHEN. His ultimate makes him always useful. This is good for the parties in bottom lane that everyone likes to have. It can save your ADCs from themselves, can save your mid laner from that stupid invade, and essentially he's been the same for the past few seasons. He thrives in tank metas, his damage is insanely misleading and actually does a lot more with that damage than many other meat shields. The biggest change in recent years was the more damage, the Titanic Hydra shift, new Q, and not just the ultimate. And what happens when you have a team fighter who can ult in from anywhere on the map, can have TP to get back to the lane, builds Titanic Hydra and has good split push, it means you can match literally any style of play from 1-3-1s, 0-4-1s, the ARM down the middle, whatever you need, SHEN can provide. The next one here is Xayah. Now currently, the only negative win rate champion in this video. You might think that makes no sense, but why would you have a champion that isn't actually winning more than it's losing? The thing is, she always does, even when she's good. Her hard barrier to entry means newer players will have a lower win rate, and because a lot of ADCs end up testing her out just a little bit, you know, the duo synergy with Rakin, you kind of want to see what it's all about, this naturally affects the win rate. However, she is ultra safe and can still hyper carry with her W ability. Not the best in lane, so early aggressive metas can suck, but then you have Rakin who beefs you up. The damage output is absolutely disgusting, really solid mid game, and the damage just keeps dripping if you are very good at the champion. So spend some time learning her kit, understanding her damage output when in the game she spikes, and you'll have no problem carrying with Xayah despite the meta. Now for Talon, the abomination of the mid lane, roaming king for many seasons. People are talking about how Season 10 is the roaming meta, and Talon's just looking around and saying, well, you know, I've been doing this for seasons, this is all I do, I am a team player. Tiamat, Duskblade, whatever lethality items, Moby Boots, shove, roam, dive bottom lane, shove, roam, dive top lane, shove, roam, solo kill the jungler at his blue buff. And you'd think such a strong roamer would be really weak in lane. That's not true, he can actually win lane very hard. Now the thing is, even in the late game metas when you've just got tanks and Cogmores and Lulus and everyone's bundled up and you get CC'd and Pixied or whatever it is, he can still make it work because all those picks I just stated, well, in the early game they're not so great and he's pretty good, so even more food in the early game for you to snowball even harder, which means he's now even less dependent on winning that lane. So even though you have losing matchups, winning matchups in mid, you have the ability, more so than any other champion in the game, to navigate the roaming, the invades, the team play, and the macro to get fed and carry games. Now with healing in the game being quite annoying at this point, we risk tilting everyone, but we need to talk about NAMI. She can do everything for a mage as well as an ADC. Lots of defensive tools, lots of ways to stay alive, but can also be used to go aggressively. Go with a Lucian, E damage, Q to engage, heal to win trades by healing him back up afterwards. What about a nice spicy E-boy in Ezreal? E damage from range, Q to keep him more safe, heal to let him farm. Also has really good teamfight counter engage, you know, that disengage with the ultimate, but it also has a Maokai ultimate that's actually useful, and all the Yasuos in your games are gonna rejoice when they see you picked. Ultimately has decent matchups versus most laners, and is very flexible in terms of who she can go with and how she can fit into a team comp, and that's something that cannot be underestimated from the support position. And you didn't think we were going to talk about him, but because spring is around the corner and the snow is melting, on the Summoner's Rift, this one snowball does not, it is immune to melting, and his very high win rate suggests that you should be playing Nunu and Willem a lot more. Now there are some who say he's the best jungler in the game for a while but doesn't get popular. To agree, that's true simply because of his versatility, the hybrid build, the full tank build, the peel, the engage, the lane gank kingdom he really has going up and down the rivers, the objective control, the decent clears. So while he's not really in the meta and there are better overall junglers for certain stages of the game, he is meta agnostic. He will just always be useful because of these things. Even if he's not technically amongst the best 5 or 10 junglers, his win rate will always be in that top 3 or 5 just because of everything I've already described. Because of this heal, because of this consume smite, because of the fact that he destroys immobile laners without flash, he will be the one tank in the jungle that will always be viable. Now we speak about tanks, that makes you think about top lane, and that makes you think about Darius. Lane kingdom, win lane, win game. Always going to be a thing because of how the game works. CSing, solo kills, tower plating. All these things reward lane kingdom dominators, and if there was a group gathering of lane dominators, he would be the leader of it. That would be a really weird barbecue though. I think there'd be a lot of meat. It doesn't matter too much how the game shifts, his matchups are fine, he can still outtrade most, build his stacks, and get a lead. Now we mentioned tower plates, but the thing is Rift Herald is also a thing, so with that lane prior and a decent jungler, even by yourself actually, go and heal up on their Krugs and Grump, go and take that Rift Herald now with a bonus damage, and if you've already taken the 4 plates in the top lane, why not get a few in the mid lane as well? You can absolutely funnel yourself, and even when he gets nerfed, he is still relevant, still difficult to play against, and can still 1v2 when the enemy jungler tries to gank you. And now as a top laner, you really hope that your jungler is controlling the dragons when that happens, but you know, I apologize for my brethren, sometimes they get distracted. Grump is really an attractive jungle monster. We'll shift back to the other side lane, and Jinx would never have made a vid like this before her Q change. They made it spike more in the mid game with the attack speed stacking, and since then she's immune to the meta. She powers up way earlier than any other crit champion at the cost of the ultra late game, but that's fine in general because any 6-item AD will hit hard, and she still does hit hard. Her minigun kills tanks, her rockets kill squishies. You can't really adapt her build, but luckily crit always works because once you get a good boom boom in your damage spike, down go the enemies. The passive as well means that she thrives in high damage metas, because if it's a high damage meta, everyone is squishy, which means lots of resets. But even if it's not a high damage meta, she's safe at the back with high range, needs 1 reset, and she's likely winning the fight. And you need to remember, squishy meta, tank meta, fighter meta, lunar moon meta, people will find a way to die and find a way to give Jinx resets. And now we diverge ourselves up to the mid lane, and we will see Malzahar wearing his mask as a good citizen of the world at this point in time. Every jungler and laner loves to see a Malzahar mid lane. Why? Because that ultimate is just supreme lockdown. Winning behind doesn't matter. Easy to use kit, press R and someone will die. And that's part of it. Some champions need a good lane. Malzahar doesn't. He just sends his Autobots to attack you, tickles you with some space disease, and now what do? Got that free Banshee Shield passive to help inexperienced laners, and with a teamfight you will always win because Malzahar has AoE damage, AoE silence, big lockdown for whatever target needs it, can make him so that he's engage or peel. His build actually gives him a lot of access to damage too, so it's not just an ult machine after his mini rework, kinda like Shen, it's misleading damage, and that's something that people on the enemy team never respect, but in your team you're always surprised and happy to see. If you're looking for an easy mid lane champion to learn, as well as to have a lot of versatility with throughout the whole season, this is who you choose. And now we're jumping back down to support, and Blitzcrank shouldn't technically work in tank metas or versus tank supports, because the last time you hooked a big cow into your house it didn't end well. But the thing is, you don't need to kill them, your ADC does. It's not fun versus an Alistar or a Leona, but it can still be okay. You can still manage it, because you can still roam, and there will always be someone on the enemy team that you can hook and instantly kill. A very simple play pattern, something that even if you miss 99 hooks in a row, the 100th can give you a Baron and an inhib. They did add more parts to his kit recently with that mini rework that made him even more meta immune, gave him more utility. If the lane is for squishies that you can hook and abuse, that's great. If it's a rough lane, you're an amazing roamer. Annoy everyone, move around, snipe hooks, steal blue buffs, take large Krugs, perma invade. You've all seen the clip from a couple years ago. This thing is tilting when done well. And you know, that's a mental aspect you need to value. Once a jungler, once anyone sees a good Blitzcrank moving around the map, hooking everything, it tilts everyone because there's just nothing you can do about it. Now back in the jungle, Java might not look like he can do the splits, but he's the most flexible champion in the game. I also don't like him, his voice, his face, and the fact that his posture is a bit unnatural. I find his kit boring, and I'm really sick of seeing him. But isn't that the point? He can do a lot of different builds. Duskblade Assassin, Cleaver Bruiser, Cinderhulk Tank, Knight's Val Carry Me build with a lot of shields. Whatever you need from Javan, he can give you. He excels at the early game, level 2 ganks, level 3 ganks, invades. Your goal is simply to be obnoxious, to be very annoying because you can really get into any jungler's face. A good EQ combo is a guaranteed flash, and once you get down the EQ flash combo of your own, then even with a flash they still die. His Cataclysm is one of the best named abilities in the game because boy is it really a big teamfight dunk. He's basically a good quintessential fighter jungler, whereas Nuna's a good quintessential tank jungler, except Javan can also be a tank. He may not be the best at anything, but he is good at everything, and also the flag gives attack speed, so you know, free assists, free towers, free dragons, etc. Now you didn't think we were gonna put Blitzcrank and forget Thresh, did you? People like to talk about overloaded kits, but this is one of the original overloaded kits. When you're creating a champion from the support position, you think, what could we give this champion that makes him unique from this area? What can give him utility and engage? No, you know what? Let's give him everything. Double proc hook, a flay that lasts 3,000 years, a literal containment ultimate that feels like I'm never going to move fast again, and a lantern that basically says, hey, you messed up, come back here now. Oh, but the lantern, yeah, it's not just a safety device, it also shields people. Basically overloaded, and that makes him high skill expression. Hook to protect, hook to engage. Flay to engage, flay to protect. Box for slows. Offensively, he can do anything you need. Defensively, he can do anything you need. Although I will say as a jungler, when you get lanterned in from a thresh and then you just get that full engage, that is really fun. I do enjoy that part about it. He's the best playmaker in the game. He is League of Legends point guard. He is the Magic Johnson. At every point in the game, he can make his teammates better simply by making the right decision with his insanely overloaded kit. That makes him meta transcendent and why he's always played by most supports. Now we're down to our final 4 here, and we have to talk about Kai'Sa. She is in a similar boat where she's quite overloaded. Stealth, attack speed, steroid, ability damage, poke, burst, mobility, shield, versatility in builds. I mean, sort of. There's normally a best build, but that's kind of the point. Whatever the meta is, she can find something, whether it's AP or AD. If there's a whole bunch of assassins, Zhonya's is a go-to. You can actually build that. And you can also build GA at the same time. I mean, that's insane. Not that you would or should, but you know, you can. As a decent kind of early game, can do so much better with a good support. She can get ahead and is very scary when that happens. Late game absolutely dominates assassin marksman, and essentially you always have that insurance of reaching 3 items and just carrying the game through teamfights or assassinating an isolated target. Void forever, baby. Now Ahri in the mid lane, you don't really see her enough until you see her in your game and you're like, oh, why don't we see her more? Because she's really good. She can charm me, she can assassin, she can wave clear, she can dash. She has 25 skins I can choose from, that's nice, I like that part of the gameplay. She's just ultra safe, and even when she's not in the meta, her win rate is still very solid and can help anyone climb. If you understand the mid lane and understand the mid lane meta in the game, you can just adapt Ahri to what you need. Different builds to fit the game or your playstyle: Control Mage, Glacial, Assassin Burst, Electrocute, Ludens, good laning, healing, wave clear, can roam well. And I would say I could stop listing things, but I could keep actually going because one charm in the late game is a kill. Whatever the matchup, whatever the meta, she can adapt to it, and from the mid lane perspective, it's almost like the opposite to Malzahar. While he can simply adapt to the meta because of the simplicity in his kit and his team fighting, Ahri can adapt your build and playstyle depending on what you're facing. So even though she's quite common and we've had her around for a long time, don't sleep on this pick because her win rate is always solid. Number 14 here is Kled. Arguably a little more meta dependent after having a dip this season actually, but it was absolutely minor and his win rate is once again back at the top. For seasons, he has just sat at the top of the win rate pile, never played a ton but always strong. A good lane bully, a good snowballing pick, and a great roamer with that ultimate. Part of the difference between a good Kled, a bad Kled, and Kleds versus others in the lane is knowledge. Might sound silly when you say it, but a good Kled will usually have tons of game on him. Because of his low pick rate, this is usually the case, right? Someone mains Kled, they only play it in all the matchups. The person on the enemy team only sees a Kled once every 100 games. Think about that. Once every 100 games they play, and how many games do people play in a season? Which means maybe you've seen 1,000 Dariuses, he's seen 3 Kleds. Which means you know how to navigate that matchup way better than he does. Compare that to something like Yasuo, which you see all the time. Everyone knows what he does. Everyone knows how to face him. There's a huge difference in knowing how to play versus Yasuo versus knowing how to play against a Kled. Now regardless, he's very good in the early game, super lane focused, and he doesn't actually fall off that hard, but as I said, his snowball potential is absolutely insane once he's out of the lane. Again, the transcending thing here is versatility, lane dominance, and roaming, and he hasn't changed for a few seasons, so will always sit atop the win rate pile. Finally, we have Master Yi. Everyone on my channel and Discord and stream knows my feelings about this degenerate playstyle, but you know, that's what makes him good no matter what. He's very good, and he's also not very good at exactly the same time. His win rate has been very strong for about a year now. Usually once they change him a little bit because people complain or he needs something, he just kind of sits in a perpetual state, whatever that may be. However, for a decent while, a lot of people have been banning him in the lower mid ranks simply because he is just such a snowball champion. You can literally do nothing, get a few kills, and then 1v9 the game. High elo players hate him because of the funnel strategies, because you put him with a Taric, give him all the gold. Once he has a lead, it can be nigh impossible to shut and lock him down, especially in solo queue without that coordination. Also, the best thing is when I have like 5,000 armor and 20,000 HP as Ornn, he still just, you know, destroys me in 3 auto attacks. Oh, so he's a tank shredder, right? That's what he does? No, he also bursts squishy targets also, and he only needs 2 to 3 items to do so. One of the biggest snowbally champions in the game. Most people don't like facing it. A good Master Yi is a terror on the map, and because you can always find a way to navigate your jungle routes and adjust your meta approaches depending on what other junglers you're facing, means that, and I know this might sound oxymoronic, you need to play Master Yi with a bit of brains activated so that you can get around all the hurdles in the game so that you can actually have no hurdles in the game. And I hope that makes sense because he's good at taking objectives and he also farms well. Just, you know, in case you didn't know. Well, there you have it, 15 champions that are always strong and great to climb in Season 10. Make sure you pick one of them up for your position to give yourself the best chance of surviving all the meta shifts and adjustments that Riot will bring throughout the year. Please do like, share, and comment if you enjoyed and learned something in this video. Please subscribe to Mobalytics for the interesting videos coming your way very soon. I've been your host Virakayu, and as always, I will see you all in the next video.